Hello, and welcome to episode 002 of Tea with Simone. I am your host, the exalted and venerable Simone. And today we're going to talk about the 1983 television adaptation of Philip Roth's 1979 novel, The Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider is the first in a series of 9 novels following the life and times of one Nathan Zuckerman, as he developed both as a writer and a person from the mid 20th century to the start of the 21st. To guarantee that the review will be balanced and comprehensive, I will analyze the film from a number of different lenses. Over the course of this video, I will explore the movie's plot, its technical aspects, its aesthetic aspects, its themes and insights, and finally comment on my personal feelings towards it and give it a rating out of 10. To start, let's examine the film's plot. The story begins with an introduction of a young Jewish writer from Newark, New Jersey named Nathan Zuckerman. At some point during the 1950s, he pays a visit to the isolated country house of his literary idol E.I. Lonoff. Zuckerman sent him a number of letters along with a manuscript for several short stories he'd written, all about the lives of Jewish people, a subject that some find absurd, as Nathan Zuckerman is far removed from the conventional Jewish lifestyle, and the work he's produced thus far seems to reflect the distance. He has recently graduated from University of Chicago and dubbed his longtime girlfriend to focus on his literary aspirations and his fighting with his conservative, deeply religious parents over his supposedly negative, stereotypical depiction of Jewish people in his stories. Zuckerman spends the night at Lonoff's, at some points narrating his personal journey and reflecting for the viewer's sake on several of the stories he's written thus far. Besides Lonoff, there is his wife Hope and a young woman from England named Amy Bellett who bears a strong resemblance to Anne Frank. Zuckerman has a half-sincere suspicion that she is, in fact, Anne Frank, now living in the United States after surviving the Holocaust. During his stay in Lonoff's house, he finds the inspiration he needs to articulate and put into writing his feelings regarding the Jews. He pays close attention to the tension taking place between Lonoff and Hope regarding Lonoff's relationship with Amy. She was his favorite student during his time as a professor, and he played a key role in helping her to get to the US. They have something akin to an intimate pseudo incestuous father daughter bond, one which is obviously far from the norm and is the main reason as to why Hope has become so jealous and invisible within the household's hierarchy. The dispute between Hope and Amy grows worse and worse as the movie continues. Lonoff's emotional disconnect with from Hope drives the wedge between them even further. Rather than express himself or discuss their marriage, Lonoff does nothing. This leads to Hope becoming hysterical and undergoing an emotional breakdown. The young writer Zuckerman looks on, acting as an observer, using the event as inspiration for his writing. The tension Nathan is bearing witness to has been growing long before he came to visit. The weird relationship between Lonoff and Amy appears to be developing further. Nathan finds inspiration in it as well and imagines Amy to be Anne Frank once more, while depicting Lonoff as a sort of intellectually superior being of a higher order, who knows too much about life and the world and emotions to trouble himself with them, leading to neglect and apathy. Sometime later, he overhears a conversation coming from another room between Lonoff and Amy. Lonoff is discussing his plans for the future and implying that he would like Amy to be a part of them. His dream is to move to Florence and live there for the next 35 years with a young woman by his side. Amy assumes this young woman to be her and takes the moment as an opportunity to try and seduce Lonoff. But Lonoff simply walks away in response to this. The possibility for a romantic slash sexual relationship exists between them, but Lonoff doesn't want to surrender himself to it just yet. There is a part of him that still wants to keep things the way they are, with hope, but then another part longs to for Florence longs to escape the boredom that he feels in his married life. Hope wants him to express this. She desperately wants him to finally disown her and their relationship officially, because she can no longer bear to watch him and Amy grow closer. After breakfast, the next morning, Hope becomes hysterical once more and decided to leave the house. She wants to give everything up because she can't take being with Lonoff anymore. She gives Amy the authority to reign in the house as she pleases. But then Amy also runs away. In the end, Lonoff chases after both of them without any passion, without any emotions, for he expected things to turn out this way. We saw it coming for a long, long time. Nathan Zuckerman, on the other hand, finds great inspiration for his writing. So that's the basic summary. Now let's talk about the aesthetic. Each member of the main cast has their own unique background and role within the story. Nathan Zuckerman is a textbook example of protagonist as observer. E.I. Lonoff is a person without emotions, which isn't to say that he's emotionless necessarily. He just doesn't respond to things the way normal people would. He lacks the reflexive automatic reaction most others would have in situations he's faced with throughout the narrative. He never says anything regarding the issue that need to be addressed, like his marriage, like his budding but inappropriate relationship with Amy. It seems like he doesn't really care about what's going on at any given point in the movie. Part of him has a burning desire to escape the boredom he's put himself in, but then another part of him has grown comfortable with the arrangement, and these two parts seems to cancel each other out and render him indifferent to everything. Amy Bellett serves as a sort of stand-in for Anne Frank had she lived. What she might look, thought, and act like post-Holocaust. All that exists within Amy Bellett, at least according to Zuckerman, and his somewhat romantic, somewhat naive point of view. We explore the Anne Frank theme through Zuckerman's young writerly lens. How he depicts the story of the three inhabitants of Lonoff's lonely country house. The mysteries surrounding Amy are filled in by Nathan with details from Anne Frank's life. He sees her relationship with Lonoff as some twisted way for her to get closer to her father, falling in love with her father while also experiencing a growing sense of solitude in life. The only person who seems to appeal to her is her father, and for that, Lana plays the role of the surrogate. This film is from the 1980s, and it's really it's easy to see the difference between movie making then and making now. This movie did a great job portraying the story it wanted to tell. The setting is limited to just one house in the middle of the New England country, and yet it's easy for us as the viewers to see how each character provides literary inspiration for Nathan. Most of the movie focuses itself on exploring Nathan's ideas and the story he comes up with, brought on by the given circumstances. He finds a more unconventional way to approach his stories, a very unconventional way. He finds great inspiration from his visit to the Lonops and epitomization of the line and thoughts of Anne Frank. It transcends and breathes new life into his potential future works, and bridges the gap between himself and his Jewish heritage slash identity. The compact setting allows Nathan the opportunity to observe his surroundings carefully and give him the energy he needs in order to tell the story he wishes to convey. Now that we've covered aesthetic, let us move on to the movie's themes and the kinds of insights they provide. For me, the movie is all about the connection between people, human relationships, human interaction, or the lack thereof. The lack of emotions that can come out of a person's more refined understanding of life. The movie also explores the act of observation. These people behave without emotions. The scene where Hope gets hysterical and Lonop doesn't do anything about it's a great example of this phenomenon. When Lonop goes to Amy's room and she tries to seduce him, they are both passionless, emotionless. There's a desire within each other to do things that will give them pleasure, but there's also the sense of boredom from being accustomed to the boredom of their everyday lives. I devoted most of my time to understanding the characters of E.I. Lonoff and Amy Vellet, especially with regards to Amy's similarities to Anne Frank. I asked myself as I watch, why was the why was she portrayed this way? What is the significance behind what is going on? From the build, I learned that having a great understanding of or being conscious of what will happen to us in our lives can somehow make us numb to life itself, to feel such emotion without any emotions at all. The movie wasn't too depressing for me to watch. It would only be that way if you only focus on how Nathan articulates his ideas, how he made a whole new existence from Amy in the character of Anne Frank, and how she should buy the war but lost her emotion in the process. So numb. There's also the take here on being a writer. Writing doesn't need to necessarily depend on your background. A good observation can also enable you to find inspiration for your work, to offer you a different perspective. It's a good it's good to play with your ideas, do some experimentations. The movie could also have a take on divorce as well, as all the unsettled feelings of stale relationship and lack of communication and ensuing failure to sustain the feelings that are needed in order to keep a healthy, balanced marriage going. With regard to how I connected to the movie personally, I started the movie feeling myself at a distance to what was going on within the narrative, but as things progressed, the film enabled me to understand things better. How the main character sees and depicts all that has happened in his story. Uh, I look into one of the possible futures for Anne Frank Nathan's take on the kind of woman she would have been. It's depressing to see how Zuckerman depicts all of this. When I read the Diary of a Young Girl, I saw this book as a book of hope. A hope for a better future, a hope for better tomorrow. Even though she was forced to grow up in hiding, she's she always seemed to find a way to look at the world and her life with hope. The movie's take helped me to realize the insights I missed. Anne Frank's introspection, her declaration of freedom, her urge to free herself from her need to depend upon the people around her. At the end of the day, it is her father she holds dearest. Everyone can have their own unique understanding of Anne Frank's book and this movie. The film only focuses on the numbers of aspects of her character, growing used to how things had been, but I think it's one of the movie's strengths. It contributes to the narrative consistency and serve as a good lead into the overall message about the complexities of emotions, how being used to them can ultimately make us numb and apathetic. So now to end things, I'll tell you what my rating of the film is all about. It is overall and leave with some closing observations. Ultimately, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It's a great film that does a great job on focusing more on the main characters while the imagination about anything else from beginning to end. Nathan is able to convert everything he sees into a new story, all about the mysterious young woman, Amy. What I'm looking for in movies like this is the kind of introspective insight that will allow me to analyze myself more thor- thoroughly. Precisely, I want something that will stick with me for a long time after. There are still things in this film that I'm trying to understand, but not enough to make it incompetent. So an 8 would be the best rating for this one. I think it's a great piece of television cinema. This was my first time to see a movie with this kind of approach. I'm just looking for more deeper insights, more permanent thoughts to leave me with. I'd recommend you to watch it for yourself. For one, it's free, and for another, it's different. A product of competent yet unconventional storytelling from the early 80s. From an adaptation perspective, however, my opinion is a little more apprehensive because the film is an adaptation of a novel. The freeness to set one's own approach and perspective onto the story is absent. Even with novels that are only focused on conveying a single point of view, it's still up to you how you would like to imagine everything that takes place. Each individual scene. When it comes to movies, they are usually forced to only have one perspective, not exactly in regards to the story, but rather in how they approach each scene. The narrative is viewed from the perspective the director wants you to see. And because film is a more limited creative form than literature, this perspective doesn't leave much room for one's own takes on things. And that's a shame. So, there you have it. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. We upload new videos every week. So Once again, this is Simone of the Red Sea Productions, signing off.